Hi, everyone. It's Lin Bouthillier from linbouthillier.com. I'm a certified trauma recovery coach and soon to be an RTT, that's rapid transformational therapist, and a hypnotherapist. And that will be in the spring of 2025. I'm in school now so that I can offer more things, more selections to my clients for their healthcare, for their mental health care, for their emotional health care, and for their well-being in general. So it thrills me to be able to say that to you, that I'm in school now to become a what they call a rapid transformational therapist. And what also another name for that is a root cause therapist. So it kind of goes hand in hand with certified trauma recovery coaching, because all of these things, when they're used in practice between a coach and a client or a practitioner and a client, it helps the client to be able to reduce the amount of time that they need to spend in a therapy chair, as I call it. It's not technically called that, but in the therapist or counselor's or psychologist, psychiatrist's office, to be able to find out what is the best path for me to be able to get to the healthiest living that I can do with and for myself. How can I get there to wellness? How can I get to where I am right now, which is feeling kind of awful, to feeling pretty great, and not have to keep spending my time checking my calendar, making appointments, coming up with the money for my to pay my practitioner. You know, not everyone has insurance. Certified trauma recovery coaches at this point in time do not yet have the ability to accept insurance assignment, but we will. And the first state to bring that into reality will be Massachusetts. After that, soon after that, they expect California and New York State to follow. And I'm delighted because I live in New York State, and I really, really want my clients to be able to use their insurance coverage to pay for sessions with a certified trauma recovery coach. Even if it's not me, with any certified trauma recovery coach, that would be fantastic if they could. Well, so that's the plan for me in the spring of 2025, to be able to offer more. But for right now, I'm very satisfied being a certified trauma recovery coach. And what does that mean? It means that I have an understanding of trauma, what causes trauma, what trauma does to us emotionally, biologically, relationally, psychologically, and neurobiologically. Those are the ways that trauma affects us. And I can help clients to understand what tools are available that we can use to sort out what happened, to sort out what things we need to know about how it affects our memory, how it affects our behavior, how it affects our ability to cope with things that are happening in our daily life, how it affects our relationships with other people, and what on earth we can do about it. How do we get from where I am right now to over there where I want to be, where I would be feeling much better than I feel right now in this place where I feel stuck. And it's a really cool journey to go on. And as you know, I've been sharing my journey about my trauma recovery for almost a year on video. And I'm absolutely delighted to be doing that, because it is not for the purpose of burdening people with a terrible story each day. That's not the point. The point is that I'm saying, this happened to me, and these are the ways that if it happened to you too, these are the things that we can do that will help heal it. And telling it, speaking about it, is one of the most important things that we can do. Somebody just came to visit me. I'm going to see if he wants to come up. Hello, you want to come up? You want to come up? Come on up, Means. No, he doesn't want to. Oh, he wanted my chair. He went and hopped up on a different chair. He was asking, he wasn't coming to give me some love. He was coming to take my chair. He cracks me up. Well, today's topic is about betrayal trauma. I've spoken several times about betrayal trauma, but because betrayal is such a common, my goodness, it hurts my heart to even say this to you. It's such a common form of trauma. And it comes to us through being abused. It comes through broken promises. It comes through disloyalty. It comes through having someone share something private about you that should never have been shared. It can come through theft. It can come through being forced to do something against your will. It can come from being sexually battered, sexually abused, sexually molested, raped, and sexually assaulted. It can come through being lied to and lied against. There's a lot of different ways the betrayal happens. There are people, and I have been in relationship with one of the people who believe this to be true, and it's not. But it's worth pointing out to my viewers today. It's a common misconception that the only way a person in a relationship, in a committed, intimate partner relationship with, no matter who you're in relationship with, but there are people who actually believe that the only way that they could betray you is if they had sex with someone who's not you, and that everything else is okay. I don't know if it's really possible for a person to truly deep down inside actually believe that garbage, but I've been told it again and again and again and again in my life. This is not infidelity because I didn't have sex with somebody else besides you. That's just horsepucky. How could this not be infidelity if you're spending time with another person and it's intimate time with that person, meaning it's just you and them, and it's for the purpose of getting to know each other better. And it's for the purpose of having some level of relationship. Might not even be a sexual relationship, but it's still a relationship. That's infidelity. Because when we're the person who is experiencing having our partner doing that, some people call it an emotional affair. I think that in some cases it's far more than just, emotional affair doesn't cover it. Betrayal can happen when a person, let's say, for instance, what happened in my experience. I'll just tell you the story now. I'll just give you the whole story, start to finish, to illustrate how a person can be experiencing infidelity by how do I want to say this? Both the people in the relationship are experiencing infidelity. They both are experiencing it. And one is the person who's doing the infidelity, and the other one is the person who obviously is the person who's hurt by the infidelity. So I'm going to take you back in time on a little story journey. But first, I'd like to ask you, because we're talking about something triggering today, please accept and understand that this is a trigger warning on this video. Should have said it a little bit earlier, but it is a trigger warning on this video. At any time you could feel triggered into a fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, autonomic nervous system response to trauma. It doesn't feel good, and we don't feel safe when that happens. So please use any grounding tool that you have around you, anything that is comforting to you. You could hold a stuffed animal, or you could hold a stone like I usually do. You could hold a clicky pen. You could hold a blanket or a quilt or something that comforts you and helps you to remain anchored and grounded while you're listening to or watching this video. I'll show you what I'm using today. A couple of weeks ago at an emergency room when I had a badly infected finger, I had to go to the ER, and I brought my grounding stone in case I had to have a little bit of finger surgery and it would help me to just not be peeled off the ceiling while I have to have that done. But what I did was I accidentally left it there. And then I was really sad afterwards that one of my favorite grounding tools was gone. So I got a new one yesterday. I'll show it to you. It's a new holy stone. Can you see the hole in this thing? This stone is about maybe 1.25 inches across. And it's a really, really nice sandstone. These are really common in upstate New York around the Great Lakes. And I live about, maybe 14 miles from the shore of Lake Erie. And this beautiful stone was just laying on the beach waving hello up at me while I had my puppies out for a really short, easy dog walk a couple days ago. I think I found it yesterday, actually. Yesterday? No, 2 days ago I found it. Anyways, this is my new holy stone. Wait a second, I'll show you. And there's another one, but this one, I have to hold it a certain way for you to be able to see through it. But that hole comes out the other side, see? So there's, the hole goes all the way through. You can see it right there. That's a holy stone, which is very cool because that makes it a little, I never was good at math, but this is the only way in which Lynn is a math nerd. I love one-sided objects. And when a stone has a hole that goes all the way through it, mathematically, it is now a one-sided object, which just warps my brain a little bit and thrills my soul at the same time. Okay, here's another one. This also is a holy stone. See it? See the hole there? Okay, so that's another one. Here's one more. Another holy stone. And one more. It's pretty cool. I now have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them. There's 5 of them on my coffee table. There's about, I don't know, maybe 8 or 9 more on my front porch. Why am I going on and on and on about this? Because I'm going to pause the discussion about betrayal trauma for just 10 more seconds to tell you I did an abundance meditation. I did an abundance meditation before I went to the beach. And I was asking if the universe would please supply me with a new, beautiful holy stone. Well, it did. And it did, 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 and it did. And I think the whole thing is remarkable. I think it's funny. I think it's beautiful. I think it's absolute proof that we can reach out to a higher power, to God, to the universe, to an unseen force that is benevolent, and we can state our needs, and we can ask in earnest, in all sincerity, please, I have this need, and I'm asking you to show me the abundance that's all around me, and whatever you show me, I will accept with gratitude. And so, lots of holy stones. So I have my grounding tool in my hand. I'm ready to go. So now I'm going to take you back on a little journey into 1988. And my spouse and I were together for 3 years. And he had been, at the time, I worked in a factory that was, I was a UAW member, United Auto Workers Union member. And the company that I worked for was making little tiny electronic components that would be used in automobiles and other things. And so I was, at the time, I was working in a department making something called micro eyes. And I was winding toroids on a machine. And then somebody would take these toroids and mount them onto a substrate. And then they would be, it was called micro welding. I used to do that for a while there too, but it's not true welding. It's actually called thermal compression bonding, meaning we're going to heat that copper wire up until it bonds, until it melts into the copper that's on the already, existing little tiny piece of ceramic substrate that has copper bonded to it to make an electronic component. So that's what I was doing, and I loved it. I had gone to school for trade electricity and electronics, and I was finally at a job where I'm using the education that I got at trade school for 2 years. And I actually got quite good at what I was doing. And the shifts flew by because it was such monotonous work that we could do our work and sorting parts and being accurate in what we're doing, but also having a great time talking to the person next to us. And if you happen to be in a chair where somebody else pulled up a seat and was working next to you for that day on that shift, and we were assigned which machine we were going to go to, then it could be a really great shift sitting there and just having a wonderful 8-hour day of just chatting with somebody about whatever, like just, what do you call it? Free association, just endless free association conversations was fun. That's how I was spending my time, and I was making more money than I had ever made so far in my life. I was having a great time. But my spouse had been trying to get into a company where my father had retired from. And this company, and at the time, I think my dad was still working there. I don't think he was retired until like 91 or 92, and this was 1988. But it has a whole bunch of divisions around upstate New York, and it's a worldwide company. It has divisions all around the globe. So this aerospace industry company was hiring, and my spouse got hired in. And it was just like he could have done cartwheels up and down the driveway. He was so excited to be hired at this place. And again, he was going to be making more money than he had ever made in his lifetime. In 1988, to be starting a job, your beginning salary before overtime would be somewhere like around $36,000 a year. And I was making at the time around 12 or 15, around there, before overtime. Okay. So it would have really helped increase our finances tremendously for us to be both working full-time in industry and making as much money as we could make. But something started to happen. There was a woman who came to my husband's department, and at the time, there were not nearly as many women working in industry that type at that place as there were. The factory where I worked was just chock full of women, and men were the minority working there by far. It was about 90% women to 10% men. And with my husband's place of employment, it was flipped upside down. It was primarily men, because in this department, they were mold makers, tool and die makers, things like that, machinists, those kind of workers. And women were not as heavily in this area, in upstate New York area, we're not as heavily into that industry as they are now. But a woman came to work in my husband's department, and she was very attractive. And I'll never forget coming home from work one night. He said, "Well, we got a new person working in our department." I'm like, "Oh, that's great. Do you think it'll be a good experience working with them?" And he's like, "Yeah, I do." And he explained it's a woman, and everybody thinks she's attractive. In fact, he didn't use the word attractive. He used the word hot. Everybody thinks she's hot. And I said, "Well, that sounds like you included." And he's like, "Oh, no, I don't think she is. She's not as attractive as you." And that's what he said every single time he was seeing somebody who was far more attractive than me, but he was trying to give me the what we used to call the snow job, so that I would think so. But yeah, it was pretty obvious. He was very, very attracted to her. And then he started doing a little bit of stuff that was like just mentioning, just casual and offhand. We might be having dinner, and he would be like, "Well, she's being trained on a job, and I haven't had my turn with her yet, but it's probably going to happen." Like, my turn? Are we playing Twister? Are we playing a board game? My turn? That usually I'm waiting for my turn means I'm anticipating something that I want. You have to wait your turn. Pretty soon it'll be your turn. Those phrases to me imply I'm anticipating being able to do this and I want to do it now, but I can't. I have to wait my turn. And so when he was speaking about it, and sometimes people just kind of tell on themselves. Well, I was married to somebody who accidentally told on himself really frequently. So what he's saying to me is somebody else is having a turn with her right now. And eventually it'll probably be my turn to work with her. Just letting you know. Don't want you to be worried about it or anything, but I'm eventually probably going to have a turn training her too. Okay, whatever. Well, then something that had been happening for a while. Like we had no kids yet. And it was not unusual at all for us to, we were both second shift workers, not unusual for us to get off work and go out to a bar to have a drink afterwards. And sometimes I went out with my girlfriends and he preferred to go out by himself. He made that extremely clear. And it hurt my feelings. It truly hurt my feelings. The factories where we were working were, I would say less than 4 miles apart. And there were a whole bunch of bars in the town, in the village where we lived. But he was working at a place that's outside the village where we lived. I was working like just right on the edge, just right on the very edge of the village. And then there's, like this 3.5 mile ride to go to the place where he worked. And when he got off work on the same street as the place where he was working, there were 2 rural area bars. And one was directly across the street from his place of employment. And then there was one that was about a mile down the road. And it was right on a corner. And it was just a little dive hole in the wall, tiny bar. And I think I'm pretty sure they might have had a pool table in there, but I know for sure they had darts. And the other place, I don't think it had a pool table, but it did have an area where there was seating for a live show, but it was a much bigger L-shaped bar and they could really pack in a couple hundred people in that place. It was quite a big place. Well, I'll tell you what happened. One night, me and my girlfriends got off work on a Friday night and 2 of us, there were 3 altogether, me and 2 girlfriends from work, and we got along great. And we used to go do this fairly frequently. We would get off work and we'd go to one of the establishments around. We didn't usually go all the way into the city because it's like a 20-mile ride. We didn't usually go out clubbing together, but I think maybe once or twice we did that. And it was just kind of like, yeah, it's better actually hanging out where we have friends. But so I said, you know what? I think my husband's going to be at the place right across from where he works tonight. Let's go over there. Let's take a ride. Let's go over, so we drove our cars and we went over there and we went in, and sure enough, my spouse is at the bar standing in a conversation with a few other guys, and they're standing there talking and laughing about something. And we walked in and walked right up to them and said, hello. And my spouse in front of my friend says, you have to leave. I said, I beg your pardon? What? It's really loud here. What did you just say? Pointing to the door. You have to go. I don't want you here. And my heart sank. It was right in front of my 2 friends from work, and it was right in front of his buddies from work. And the first response that I had was, I didn't even think. The first thing that came out my mouth was, why? Why? Did I do something? And he was like, I don't want you here. These guys don't have their wives with them, and I don't want you here. So you have to leave now. And I said, I'm not leaving. I am not leaving. We came here and decided to have, just go out for a drink before we go home. And that was usually what we did. 1 drink, and then we go home. I was not into drunk driving. It didn't take a whole lot to get me, and I didn't want any of that. I didn't want to risk that. I I could drink one bottle of beer for 2 hours. But anyways, my girlfriends, they knew what was happening. They said, well, let's get a drink and go sit over there and talk. And they're like looking around. Oh, a couple other people from work are here. We'll go over and visit with them. I'm like, okay, no problem. So we order our drinks and pay for our drinks, and we go over, take them from the bar over to sit down at a table. And we're just, chatting. A couple people from the other table are coming over and saying hi and talking with us for a few minutes and then going back. And we were having a wonderful time. And then it was I just was getting tired. I wanted to go home. I had my one and only drink, and it was time for me to leave. And I went over to my husband, who did not want anything to do with me in this public place. And I said, I'm leaving now. And he just looked at me and said, fine. And then went right back to what he was doing. It felt to me like a complete and total betrayal. I held my shit together until I got home. And when I got to my apartment, let myself in, get into my comfy clothes, and I'm just like feeling pretty low about this. And I waited up for him to come home. And when he came home, he said, don't ever do that again. You humiliated and embarrassed me. And I said, you have never told me before that I'm not allowed to show up where you are. And I'd like to know, what makes you even think that that's in any way appropriate to say to me? And he's saying, I don't want to be seen with my wife in public after work. If I go out with my friends for a drink after work, I don't want to be seen with you. He said, it makes me look like, and he used the P word. Oh, really? Okay, so being seen with me makes you look like a, women's genitalia. Okay, nice to know. Thank you so much for the insult. And I didn't leave. I will tell you, I've said it in many other videos. I had no idea at that point how severely trauma bonded I was, because it didn't even enter my head to say, this person is emotionally and psychologically abusing me, verbally abusing me. He's devaluing me. He's trashing me in front of his friends. And it doesn't occur to me to say, we don't have children yet. Now it's time to get out. I had already been told, put your paycheck on my dress, sign it and put it on my dresser, but don't take your check. Back then, there was no direct deposit yet, at least in my area. Do not take your paycheck when it's handed to you, because they handed them out at work on payday. Do not take your paycheck and cash it and do what you want with it. You don't have the right to do that. You have to sign it and give it to me, and I take care of the finances, and your hands are no touchy. You don't touch the finances. This is my responsibility, and you will do what I want. I was told that immediately after our wedding, just days after our wedding. As soon as my paycheck, my first paycheck came after we were married, gone for a honeymoon a few days, go back to work. There's my paycheck. You're not allowed to have your own paycheck. You are not allowed to make your own decisions about how much money you're going to contribute to the household. I handle all of it. So he was taking my paycheck that I earned and then giving me an allowance, and kept me on allowance for years. Okay, there's another betrayal. Some of these things, you might not be used to thinking of them as betrayal, but they are. Because what did this person say to me before we were married? I believe in equality. I think the husband and the wife should have equal say about everything. I don't want to be the way your parents were and the way my parents were. I want to be able to have total equality in the relationship. And I'm like, well, that's music to my ears, because I believe in the exact same thing. And we should have total equality between the two of us. It is the way it should be. And if you're going to be working and I'm going to be working, and we're both working approximately the same number of hours per week, one might be paid a little bit more, but we still have equal say over the money, right? Yes. Okay. well, I was only married a couple months. And he said to me, because his brother came over and said, when are you guys going to start saving for a house? You're not making enough money to be able to put a down payment on a house. You're not going to be able to afford a mortgage. So you're going to have to do something to increase your bottom line so that you guys can get out of this is a crappy apartment. Why do you want to live here anyways? Well, it was our first home together and we loved it. But he's being all offensive and insulting about it and insulting us for not living the same lifestyle and at the same level of financial comfort that he was at. So what does my spouse say to me after he leaves? Well, that you heard him. You got to get another job. I'm like, what? I already work a full-time job. And at that time I was still working in a nursing home. I hadn't transferred over to working in the factory yet. But what was he doing? He's telling me, you have to get another job, like starting tomorrow. Tomorrow's your day off, right? And I said, yeah. And he says, well, you're going to go start putting in applications at places around town because you need a part-time job to supplement your full-time job. That's what you have to do. I'm like, you are forcing me to get another job on top of the job I already have? He's like, yep, yes, I am. Why? So he could so he could look like a tough guy to his brother. So his brother's going to come back and say, well, did you do what I said? Or he's going to call him, or he's going to go over to his place and he's going to get grilled about it. His older brother making demands on us. And he told my spouse on the night before we got married, there was, at the house I'm at right now, there was a rehearsal dinner party in the garage. It was summertime and it was picnic style rehearsal dinner. And right in front of everybody, somebody said that the best man and the usher, and my brother-in-law was the usher in the wedding, and my husband's best friend was the best man. And somebody said that they should make a speech. Well, the best man didn't want to, and the brother did. And it was real short. And he said, I'm just going to use a different name for my husband right now. But he said, Charles, don't ever spoil her. Do not, under any circumstances, ever do anything to spoil her, or you will regret it. And then everybody cheered and said, hear, hear, yay. And I was standing in the doorway to the garage, coming from the kitchen with, more food to put out. And I'm the bride, and I'm standing there going, what did he just say? And my spouse's response to that was, don't worry, I won't. Saying so faithfully to his brother, don't worry, I won't spoil my spouse. I won't spoil my wife. Taking that to heart, I will not spoil her. And I'm not kidding you. It was almost like hearing the records, the record player needle scratch across the vinyl in that moment for me. And I did not know in that moment how much my life just changed. I did not understand how much my spouse made a conscious or unconscious decision to treat me completely different than he had treated me up to that point. And I'm not saying he treated me well. There was plenty of abuse. But I'm saying that certain things just changed. And one of them was that he began to betray me on a level that I couldn't comprehend. I could not comprehend how intensely and with such audacity, such intensity and audacity, like out in the open. I don't care who sees it. I'm not the least bit embarrassed or ashamed about this at all. I'm going to humiliate you. I'm going to betray you. I'm going to speak ill of you right in front of you to other people and behind your back. I'm going to create alliances against you. I'm going to force you to work an extra job. I'm going to work you almost to death, forcing me to work like 60 to 70 hours a week on top of my already 40-hour, I was already working 40 hours, but I had to pick up a job that was giving me somewhere between 20 and 30 extra hours a week, usually closer to 20. I was getting tired. And I was also struggling with some health issues at the time, for sure. They were not mental health issues. They were physical health issues. But because I had had my spleen removed, I had a tremendous problem with getting infections. I had picked up so many strep infections, so many bronchial infections, so many times if I caught the flu, it went into a severe secondary infection because I didn't have a healthy immune system since my ITP. I had to have a splenectomy to cure my ITP, and it took out the largest lymph node in my body, and I was really struggling. So what was he doing to a spouse who was already struggling with health issues? Making it worse. That's what the end result of that was. Being overworked when you have an underworking, unhealthy immune system, an impaired immune system or compromised immune system, as it's medically referred to, compromised immune system. Okay, so getting back to what happened at that bar that night and what happened when we got home. I know now what this was most likely about. It started to click in my head. He doesn't want that girl, and I can't tell if she's there. I've never seen her. The woman from work was probably at that bar, and he did not want to be seen as married. I'll bet you anything that that's what was going on. And one thing about a lot of men who work in the machining industry, they do not wear jewelry on their hands. When I was working in trade electricity and electronics lab at school, you know, it was a vocational technical school, and we were constantly reminded, you cannot have on bracelets, you cannot have on a necklace, you cannot have on rings. You will get injured. You can get injured if you have those things on. Please, please, please do not wear any jewelry to class. And so we were checked. And if you had on anything, that teacher would point it out and say, get that off before you go over to lab area. You cannot have that on. You can get you can get shocked. You can get injured. Well, with machinery, you can get caught in machinery and you can get a finger damaged or pulled off. So what happened was I get home and the lights are starting to come on for me. Oh, she might have been there. That's what it might have been about. You're kind of cramping my style and making me look married when I don't want to look married, because there's a woman from my department who's going to be here, and I don't need her seeing you. I believed that that's what's going on. And to this day, I still believe that that's what was going on. Well, I backed off for a little while and didn't go out to places where he was. And we talked about it. Me and my girlfriends had talked about it numerous times. And they're like, how dare he do that to you? And we think that you should just go where you want to go. And we'll keep going with you to wherever you want to go. And if he's there, too bad for him. Well, one night I was getting tired of, and many nights I did just go get off work and went straight home, waiting for the door to open for him to get home, because he usually got home about 15 minutes after me. And I was waiting and he wasn't showing up. So I got in my car and I drove to the little tiny dive bar that was just a mile down the street from where he worked. And sure enough, very first place I went, there's his vehicle. And I had some cash in my purse, and I had on, I remember exactly what I had on. I had on a pair of jeans, tennis shoes, and a t-shirt and a black hoodie, like a pullover hoodie. And I went inside. And back then, I was a tiny girl. I was like 120 some pounds, 5'1", very, very small, petite girl. And I felt like I was a fairly attractive young lady. But I was, let's see, 20, I was 23 or 24 years old, around 24. And I walked into that bar, and I just saw him sitting at the bar, and I just froze for a second. That's not accurate. Nope. when I walked in, what made me freeze was not that he was sitting there. They were in the middle of a dart game. Him and the girl who I'll call Paulette. So Charles and Paulette are in the middle of a dart game. And when he saw me, he made a beeline for the bar and sat down on his bar stool. And it made me recognize right away that there's two bar stools that are very close together, and there's a drink at either one, and there's a pack of cigarettes for each person. And her pack of cigarettes had a lighter on top of it, like the lighter is laying down on top of the pack of cigarettes. And the pack of cigarettes are so close to his that they're almost touching. And I went, and she came around and she sat down, and I knew right away who it had to be. She sat down on her stool, and she's just kind of leaning in really close to him, and they're talking. And he's ignoring me. He's ignoring the fact that big, huge, glaring, bright, flashing neon light. My wife, Lynn, is here. She's in the room. She's right next to me, and he's ignoring me. So I went, I just walked right up to the bar on his left side. And she's like this on the bar, just leaning in really close, just looking at him. And and I went and I ordered a bottle of beer. They offered me a glass. I said, no, thank you. And I'm drinking my bottle of beer, just little sips. And I sat down on the opposite side of my spouse. There's my cash and my purse on the bar and my pack of cigarettes, okay? Because at the time I was a smoker. And there I am sitting there, and I said, so how was your day? And he didn't answer me with anything except for, you have to leave now. You have to go home now. And I said, no, I don't. Nope. I got off work a while ago. I went home, quite tired of being lonely at home, and decided to come out and have some fun. So I'm here to have a drink. And after I have my drink, then I'll go home when I feel like it. And he's like, no, you have to leave now. And I said, no, if you're uncomfortable with me being here, you're free to leave. If you don't like this, feel free to leave. And he wouldn't drop it. He just said, you have to go. Gotta leave. Well, the girl, the woman sitting on the other side, she's like maybe the same age as me, maybe 1 year older, 1 year younger. I couldn't really tell. But she's sitting there, and she's just got this, eating grin on her face. She's just like this, just loving it, just loving that she is causing this much dissension between a couple and causing me to be told by him to get out. And she was just loving that she is causing some tension in a marriage. And so, excuse me. Well, what I feel was causing the most attention, excuse me, please. The dissension in the marriage was being caused by betrayal that's happening because my spouse was a betrayer. It had very little to do with her. It had everything to do with this guy has a problem with being seen as being married. He does not want the world to recognize him as a married man. He wants to be seen as available and on the market and quite happy to be, sitting with you in a bar and playing darts in a bar together, almost like on a date after work, hoping that your spouse doesn't walk in. So a whole bunch of times, I lost count how many times he told me, you have to go. See, there's the door. Go through it now. Leave. I don't even care if you go home. You just have to leave. I don't want to be with you. Go. It is severe betrayal. It is humiliation. He was doing everything he could to humiliate me in public. And down at the end of the bar, there was a man who was watching this, and I'll call him Gary. And Gary had been to our apartment with his wife. We had attended company Christmas parties together, credit union dinners together, sat at the same table with this other couple. And he's just sitting there watching this whole thing play out. And he's just looking at me and just shaking his head like this, going, like, man, I can't believe what an a-hole my friend is being right now to his wife. So I sat there and I just sipped my beer. And they sat there carrying on their conversation, like hushed tones conversation, shoulder to shoulder, really close. Kind of rubbing salt in a wound. And I just sat there, just drinking my beer, chatting with bartender for a second, watching what's on the TV. And then when I was done, I got up and I walked out, and he did not follow me. And I went home, and it was like, I don't know, somewhere between an hour and 2 hours more before he got home. And he came home and said, "How you doing? What's new with you?" No reference to it whatsoever. Zero reference to coming through the door. No reference to me coming through the door at the place where he was. And absolutely walked in on a date. There was no doubt about that. And to this day, I mean, like till the last time we ever spoke about it, which was probably, I don't know, maybe 2 years ago. Every time for more than 35 years that I ever mentioned that, I got the exact same response. Well, you already knew that I told you I didn't want to see you in any place where I was after work. You shouldn't come in there because I already told you you can't, but you did. And he said the only thing I could do is just tell you to leave because you had no right to be there. And I said, actually, you're married and you had no right to be on a date. And he said, it wasn't a date. I play darts with lots of coworkers. I go out to drink for a drink with lots of coworkers. It doesn't make it a date. Just because she was female doesn't make it any different. And I'm like, yes, it does. Yeah, it most certainly does. And this is the person that I married was a compulsive and a pathological liar. They're not the same thing, but you can be both. And he was a severe compulsive and pathological liar, which is, again, betrayal on top of betrayal on top of betrayal on top of betrayal on top of betrayal. Because, my friends, every single time a person looks right at your face and lies directly to you, that's a betrayal. That is a form of betrayal. It's a sickening form of betrayal. And then gaslighting is a highly specialized form of lie. And I was gaslit hundreds of times about this. And the gaslighting betrayal might sound like this. Well, like I said just moments ago, I go out with lots of people after work. Just because this person happened to be female doesn't mean it was a date. That's gaslight. And it's betrayal. Or another one is, hey, none of the other guys in the place had their spouses with them, so I was just trying to be like everybody else. That's a giant gaslight. And it's also used as a betrayal. It is betrayal to be gaslighted by somebody, or gaslit, gaslighted. Either one, I guess, is grammatically correct. But what does it do to us on the inside to experience that? What about the betrayal of rejection? I was being rejected in front of a room full of people. Several of them knew that I was his spouse, and they were just sitting and watching it like it was an afternoon soap opera. Especially Gary down at the end of the bar, just kind of smiling and nodding and shaking his head and sipping his drink. It was a humiliation. Some of you might be thinking, why did you set yourself up for that humiliation? And the answer is I don't know. But there was a part of me that wanted to know, is my spouse being unfaithful to me? The answer is yes. Yes, that was infidelity. I had mentioned before that infidelity does not necessarily have to be, meeting somebody, going to a motel, or having sex in a car, or having sex in the back of a golf course, or whatever. It doesn't matter. It does not have to involve sexual activity in order for it to be infidelity. But the betrayal was off the charts. I never had any evidence or proof of any kind that he was actually having sex with her or any other human being. It doesn't matter if that's who he prefers to be with after work, that was his shiny new toy. A lovely girl came to work in his department, and he just immediately was filled with desire to be getting her attention, having her spend time with him, having her, be impressed with him. And so he wanted that one-on-one, face-to-face time, and he wanted to be seen in public with her, as if he was in some way intimate with her. Well, sitting really close, playing a game, having a drink together, having your cigarettes close together, all of that, all of the body language involved in that, and all the positioning of their things implied very heavily there's some degree of intimacy here. Because I've been out for drinks with people with groups of people from work, and a couple times one or two men came along, but my bar stool was never right up against theirs and leaning in and talking and sighing and smiling right shoulder to shoulder, all that. No, it was never like that at all. A bunch of us sitting at a couple of tables pushed together, sitting and talking, everybody the same distance apart, nobody getting mushy and moon eyes at anybody else. So I saw what I saw, and I know what I saw. This is the part where another betrayal comes in. When you get gaslit by the person who's betraying you, to say, you're seeing stuff you want to see that wasn't happening. None of what you're saying happened. You just want it to have happened because you're so petty and you're so jealous, and you're always gotten your feelers out for infidelity. You're trying to catch me at something that I'm not doing. You're so insecure. Following me around town. You're probably going from bar to bar to bar to bar until you find me. I'm like, no, pal, I wasn't. I took a stab in the dark at, it's going to be either that one or that one. I'll start with the furthest away one. If it's not there, the other one's on my way home. I'll stop there. But he was shaming me for wanting to be with my spouse when the workday was done. He's the person who forced me to work an extra job while I'm working full time. He forced me to do that. And then while I'm still being forced to work 2 jobs, what is he doing? Going out with somebody else. And I don't know if that's the only somebody else. It did not matter to me whether or not he was having sex with that person. That's inconsequential to me at that point, because the pain's already here. The rejection, the public rejection and public humiliation, the manipulation, the exploitation, the turning it on me and throwing it back at me as, this isn't a Charles problem, this is a Lin problem, and Lin is grossly insecure and needs to get a life. This is the kind of stuff that you are so insecure. I don't know what happened to you in your life that you think that I should have to, explain to you why I'm sitting next to somebody in a bar. Hey, there was lots of other women there in that bar. Any one of them could have come and sat next to me. Yeah, except for it just happens to be the person who you referred to as somebody else is having a turn with her right now. I have to wait my turn. And by the way, she is kind of hot. That's a lot of heavy duty gaslighting. So how did all of this end up? How did it resolve? As long as I worked a second shift job and didn't have children, my spouse didn't come home from work. The average weeknight, on weekends when we were off and we could go out and do stuff together, we did. But if it was a weeknight, he did not want me anywhere near him when he went out after work. And he wouldn't stop doing it, no matter how much I asked him. If you're going to go out after work, let's just have the agreement that either one of us is free to go wherever we want. And if the other one is there, then we don't be abusive of them. And we don't ask them first and then tell them and then implore them and demand from them that they get out. How about if you come to a place where I am, I treat you decent. And if I walk into a place where you are, you treat me decent. How about that? And the answer was this: no. I can walk into, this is him speaking, I can walk into wherever you are and you should be nice to me and you should be glad to see me. And if you walk into any place where I am, you have to leave. Do you see my vehicle there? Don't even get out of your vehicle. Don't come in. I don't want to see you. Makes me look bad. Makes me look like a henpecked husband. It makes me look like a giant P word. And he stayed doing that. I mean, he never acknowledged that that was gross behavior on his part. But let's now talk about what that behavior is. Let's name that behavior. Oh my God, giant, huge, flashing light, neon, narcissistic behavior. This is the behavior of a narcissist. This is also the behavior of a spouse abuser or a partner abuser. This is verbal, emotional, and psychological abuse. This is hypocrisy at its finest, but it's all betrayal. Every single bit of it is betrayal. Because when you start, living together may or may not involve, with your intimate partner, it may or may not involve vows. Some people have commitment ceremonies. Some people say, I don't ever want to be married my entire life, but I will commit to you all day long. I will have a candle lit with witnesses commitment ceremony. We can have it out someplace. We can have it in our apartment. We can have it wherever you want. And I will pledge my entire life to you. I just don't want to get married. I don't want the legal aspect of marriage. I don't like it. I've seen it go bad many times. I don't want it. But if a person is saying to you, I commit to you my entire life to you. I love you. I will never stop loving you. You're the only one for me. I want to be with you forever. And whether there's a ceremony or not, but they're making that commitment with you. No one else will ever, ever, ever have my heart, my time, my attention, in an intimate way. I will never cheat on you. I will never betray you. Well, my spouse just kept on telling me again and again and again, betray you? I didn't, FUCK somebody else. And my response over and over again, yeah, but you did to my feelings. You did to my self-esteem. Where's our self-esteem when that's going on, when that's happening to us for years and we can't get it to stop? What does that do to our self-view? What does that do to our worldview? What does it do to our functioning in our day-to-day life? When we're that humiliated on that level, my friends at work know it, his friends at work know it, our family members know it, I went to my parents and I said, I have this problem. I can't get it to stop. I don't know what to do anymore. I'm being betrayed and it hurts so badly. And my parents said, well, you chose him. And that's a marital problem. You don't come to us with marital problems. You work it out with your spouse. That's it. That's it. You're not getting anything more from us. And I said, okay. All right. And I tried talking to his parents, which was just completely futile because they had a son who they never, ever, ever in their lives recognized as a person who's doing wrong. No matter what grotesque thing he was doing to me or what grotesque thing his son was doing to his wife, or at the time his girlfriend, or then his fiance, or any human being on the planet. These two kids of theirs could not do anything wrong. Being completely, I mean, my husband, before he was my husband, he told me that he abhorred racism. But his brother and both of his parents used the N-word. They had racism in their hearts. And his mother, she was my first experience with getting to know somebody who was female that was misogynistic. I didn't even know. I was so innocent and young. I didn't know that a woman could be misogynistic, but she was. And that's how I learned about women who are highly misogynistic. It's gross, but that's what was going on. But I was turning to people who could not help me and had no desire whatsoever to support me in my misery and to help me to sort it out, because I was a very, very, very innocent girl when I married. I had been sexually abused and molested at school by my boyfriend, who was later my fiance. First, he was my supposed friend. Then he was my boyfriend. Then, years after high school, he was my fiance. And then a couple years after that, he was my spouse. But it didn't occur to me, if this person would publicly humiliate you as a teenage girl, if he would publicly molest you in front of hundreds of kids each day and teachers and staff at school each day. And I would say, I'm really uncomfortable. Please stop. Please don't do this to me in front of people. And he'd say, they can't see. Nobody here can see what I'm doing. They're all doing their own thing. They're all walking by. Nobody cares and nobody can see. I'm like, I didn't know the word gaslighting then, but that was Olympic level gaslighting, to tell me that nobody could see what he was doing to me with his hand up my shirt or his hand down my pants. He didn't care. He did not respect me. And because I had such a terrible, terrible childhood with abuse in my home and addiction in my home, verbal, emotional, psychological, and physical abuse in my home, I didn't have a worldview or a self-view that was healthy. I didn't. And so the first person who came along, who put their arms around me and kissed me and held me close and told me beautiful things in my ear, I believed that that was love. And I didn't know that if it doesn't come with respect for you as a human being, with any respect for your own personal needs and your own self-image and your reputation and how other people feel about you, if they don't protect you in that way, but instead they exploit you and let all of those other people see them doing gross things to you in public, that's betrayal. And then to gaslight you about it and say, that's not what's happening. I love you. And all these people know that I love you and they can't see what I'm doing to you. So don't even worry about it. I'm up on that. And then the ultimate gaslight, which is, you are such a worrier. God, you can be such a wet blanket. You can find the downside of everything, can't you? instead of taking ownership of their own behavior, they will throw you under the bus and tell you that you're insecure, that you're mentally unstable, that something's wrong with you, and that you really should do something about it. But now let's go back to 1988. I was not being insecure. I genuinely, sincerely was lonely. I thought, we're a married couple. Our responsibility to each other is to spend our free time together. Doesn't mean oppressively so, like you can never be away from me. You can never go off and do something with a friend or a family member. What? No. I'm talking about just getting off work at midnight or shortly after, and then having the rest of your day until you go to bed spent in a quality way with your partner, which is what I was longing for. I didn't want to be with other people. I wanted to be with my spouse. I was perfectly content the times that we got off work. We were at home, got our comfy clothes on, put our sweats on, turn on the TV, have a drink and a snack, watch comedy, watch a cable movie, whatever, and then go to bed. To me, that was just blissful. This was just everything I longed for all day. The whole time I was at work, I couldn't wait to be with him. And he was always like this. Don't come any closer. I don't want you near me. But when he wanted to be with me, then yes, it was wonderful. Sort of. But I always knew that he controlled it. He was the person who held the power differential. He could banish me, and I was not allowed to banish him. He already told me that. I can go wherever I want, and if you're there, that's fine. And if you go where I don't want you, I reserve the right to throw you out. And I don't care I will never care if it hurts your feelings. I don't even think about your feelings. In fact, I don't even believe you have feelings. So what? And I stayed. And every single betrayal that person was doing to me, he was keeping score. On some level, he was keeping score, and he knew I can do just about anything to her, and she won't leave me. And that could only go on for so long. And then I did. Then I did leave him. Because when I started to wake up and recognize I'm caught, it's almost like being under a spell. I know it's very simplistic and childish to say, like a magical fairy tale. Think of the Beauty and the Beast. The Disney movie, Beauty and the Beast, shows that there was a spell over the castle and everything was dark and colorless and dreary, and broken and miserable and sad and mysterious, and scary, until the spell was broken. And then the rose in the bell jar came to life. The rose in the bell jar magically came to life, and everything in the castle was in full color. Things that were green were supposed to be green and lush and full of life. Flowers had color again. And things had meaning and wonderfulness again. I know I'm oversimplifying this, but when you're under the spell, under the control of a controlling controller who controls, and you're with a lying liar who lies, and a betraying betrayer who betrays, once you recognize what a trauma bond is, and it is the cement that holds you in place, it is the nails that nail your feet to the floor so that you will not leave. Because, and this is me putting my certified trauma recovery coach hat on for a minute, when we're used to the comfortably uncomfortable, meaning I'll paraphrase it a different way. I'm so used to this happening, I just know how to handle it. I've been handling this for years and years. I know how to handle this. And it happens, and I hold my stuff together, and then as soon as they're gone, I go fling myself on my bed and I lay there and I sob my heart out. And then I tell myself, well, at least you have a roof over your head and steady income, food to eat. And you know he doesn't do anything any worse than this. So you just stay. You just find different ways to be happy. You give up trying to find any happiness in the relationship. Because anytime that you trust that person, if you stick your neck out just enough to trust them again, they're going to betray you again. There's going to be a betrayal again. Because there's such thing as, and you may not be familiar with this expression, but it's pathological betrayal. When a person literally cannot stop betraying you because they're so addicted to the dopamine, serotonin, and oxytocin that's released in their body and in their brain, so that they feel good. They get addicted to their own feel-good chemicals, which are released whenever they do this behavior to you. Just like any other drug addiction, they get addicted to betraying you and they can't stop because it just feels so good to do it. And then what do they get from you? Supply in the form of attention. Why did you do that to me? What makes you treat me like garbage? Why are you doing this? It hurts me. Don't you recognize that you're killing me when you do that? That is supply to a highly narcissistic person. All abusers are narcissistic. Any person who habitually betrays you is highly narcissistic. It might not be their only personality trait, but it's one of them. It's completely toxic and corrupt. So how on earth do we heal after repetitive betrayal from our partner? And in this video, I'm speaking specifically about intimate partner betrayal, but no matter what relationship the person is to you, whether it's a sibling, a parent, a cousin, a grandparent, an aunt, an uncle, a neighbor, a friend, a coworker, whoever is betraying you or has betrayed you, we can ask this question: is it a one-off or is it a pattern? Okay, if it's a one-off, then we just watch for it to happen a second time. If it happens a second time, guess what? Now it's a pattern. If it happens more than twice, twice establishes the pattern. If it happens more than twice and you've talked to them and told them how you feel and that you're saying you must not do this to me anymore, it's intolerable to me, I'm making a boundary. You may not cross this boundary. I am not tolerating being injured, humiliated, shamed, embarrassed, rejected, manipulated, exploited, pushed aside, tossed over for somebody else, lied about, lied to, lied against, mischaracterized, character assassination, bringing somebody in as a third person to triangulate against you with. All of that is betrayal. Every single bit of it. And no, if it's our intimate partner, they do not have to have sex with that other person in any way. It does not require sexual contact at all in order for it to be a betrayal. And it can be a severe betrayal, even if there was no sex had between the two of them. But what can we do? Self-care, 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 self-care. My answer will always start with lavishing the best self-care on yourself that you can. Another one is learning about betrayal. There's lots of resource online about betrayal. Excellent place to begin about betrayal trauma would be with Melanie Tonya Evans. Another person would be Richard Grannon. Another person would be Dr. Ramani Durvasula. Another one would be the late Dr. Roberta Shaler. Another one would be a man named Andrew, who has a channel called Narc Daily. All of these people offer tremendously wonderful information about betrayal. Another one would be Darren McGee. excellent psychologist, or he might be a clinical social worker or psychotherapist. I'm not sure of his denomination of his profession, but I will tell you, his information is fantastic. Most of his videos are about 12 to 15 minutes. But his name is Darren McGee, and he speaks very often about narcissistic behavior and the betrayals that these people do. There are many, many more, lots of other resources about betrayal, but those are the first ones that come to mind for me. And I hope, and another one is Lisa A. Romano, breakthrough life coach. Visit her channel on YouTube. She's amazing. But when we experience betrayal, it hurts us deeply in our emotions. It hurts us in our psychology. It hurts us in our relationships, obviously. But it can actually end our relationships with people who are very precious and dear to us. Ultimately, that is what my spouse ended up doing. He went into the realm of hurting me and then mischaracterizing me repeatedly again and again and again and again and again and again to my own children, to my former siblings. I went no contact with all of them because secretly behind my back, most of them were engaging in secret behind my back conversations with my spouse. And he was triangulating me with people he knew that I was already, most of them were no contact by my choice, no contact with these siblings because I found them to all be highly betraying, backstabbing, gossiping, hurtful, insulting, manipulative, exploitative, and oftentimes very, very shaming and angry people. I decided I don't want to live that corrupt life anymore. I want only high quality, trustworthy relationships, a relationship where the person is trustworthy and I can trust that they will not betray me. And I know that I would never betray them. And so we can re-examine our relationships. We can say goodbye to somebody who we know is a betrayer. And we can make that decision to say, you've had 100 different second chances. I'm not giving you any more. I choose to be very selective whom I trust with my own personal information and with my heart and with my emotions, with my life, with my private things. I'm very, very, very selective who I allow to have any access into my own personal feelings and my own personal life. Even my home. I'm very, very selective about who is allowed to cross the threshold, not out of fear. It's out of love for myself. It's out of respect for myself. It's out of self-partnering. Self-partnering doesn't mean that we don't have relationships with anybody else anymore. It means that we tell ourselves again and again, I have your back. I am your partner. You can rely on me. I will never backstab you, and I won't put you in a position again anymore to have anybody backstab you. I am partnered with myself, and if somebody does something betraying one time, I say, could be a one-off. Happens a second time, now I'm extremely cautious about you. Now you've got a pattern of betraying me. If it happens a third time, 3 strikes, you're out. We don't have any further contact. It's really, 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 really good to have yourself understanding. You're not alone in this. There's lots of people you can partner with out in the world that will help you with these issues. Mental health practitioners, certified trauma recovery coaches, things like that. All of these different people that are out in the world that can help you. But if you feel that you're having a relationship with one of those people, a professional who's helping you with this, and they're saying things that are shaming or blaming you or controlling or telling you that they have a planned outcome for what's going to happen, that's not good. And it's a really good signal that you might be with the wrong individual. So we can feel betrayed by them too. And it's okay to say, you know what, you get a couple chances. If it happens again, bye-bye. I'll find somebody else who I can work with, who is not going to give me the same garbage that I get from the other people in my life. So there's so much we can do. Proper nutrition, proper sleep, excellent skincare, getting some exercise, having a couple people in your life that are your social circle that are safe. And if you don't have a single one, there was a time where I didn't have a single one, that I had to start putting myself into places where I would meet new people. And not for the purpose of, you know, just making myself uncomfortable and being miserable, but it was, I had to go to something that I love to do with an open heart and an open mind and say, I might make a friend here. And it did happen. It was at a dog park of all places, but that's where I was hanging out with my dogs. And I met one of the most amazing, precious human beings ever. And we are still friends, and the friendship has lasted years. And that person supported me emotionally through some of the worst things that I've ever been through. Meaning some breakup, abuse, and garbage like that. But this has been a good talk, and I'm glad that you were here with me today. If you found value in this discussion, please hit the like button now. I'd really appreciate it. So as always, please like, subscribe, share, hit the notification bell, and please put comments in the comment section, because it thrills me to have some interaction with people who watch my videos, but also so that I can tell you how much I appreciate you coming to watch my videos. So I try to put comments in response to people's comments as much as I can. I really appreciate every one of my subscribers and every one of my viewers so much. I'm so thankful that you've been here to join me for this. It helps me reach more people in the trauma and abuse community when you reach out through the comments, and when you like the videos, and when you do shares, and when you subscribe. So thank you so much. If you're interested in becoming a one-on-one client for certified trauma recovery coach, meaning you must be 18 years of age or older, and I can't work with families, I can't work with couples, I only work with one-on-one with individuals. But if you're interested in finding out more about that, you can visit my website, which is linbouthillier.com. You can email me, lin@linbouthillier.com, or you can call my phone, which is 716-994-3052. I would love to hear from you. We can have a discovery call, and then you can decide whether or not certified trauma recovery coaching with me, Lin Bouthillier, would be good and beneficial for you. So thank you, everyone, for joining me. Have the very best day. Remember, please, self-care is never, ever selfish. It is essential to well-being and to trauma recovery, and that you are infinitely worthy of your own trauma recovery. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.